Suffering and death are strongly emotive experiences that all people will endure at some point in their lives, and we can respond to it in two ways. We can reject it and try to minimise its impact on our lives, or we can embrace it. Both responses have an effect on how we define our identity. The architecture associated with sites that have a history of violence, suffering, or death can be quite significant in shaping how we respond to those events in the present. Today, I will be looking at how architecture can be used to help shape our identity in the context of dark tourism. Dark tourism has been defined as the act of travelling to sites associated with death, suffering, and the seemingly macabre. While these sites have been in existence and have been visited throughout human history, it is only recently that attempts have been made to quantify this type of tourism. Originally, only the sites were considered when determining whether a place could be considered a dark tourism destination. However, as visitor motivation comes under more scrutiny, questions are raised as to whether some sites, such as Gallipoli, are truly dark tourism sites, as the motivations for visitation are primarily to relate to the emergence of a unique Australian and New Zealand national identity, rather than to experience the suffering and death that occurred there. There are a number of different ways in which the architecture at such sites can influence the development of identity on a personal and community scale. These ideas can be broken down into smaller subsets. Firstly, we have premeditated architecture, where architecture is deliberately designed to convey a specific ideology, and this can be further broken down into original and subsequent architecture. Secondly, we have incidental architecture, where architecture which was designed for unrelated purposes becomes associated with a dark tourism event through subverted usage. This type can be further broken down into that which we choose to preserve and that which we choose to erase. Premeditated architecture can be seen in sites such as the Port Arthur Penitentiary in Tasmania, the 16th century slave castles of West Africa, and the Nuremberg rally grounds in Germany. The primary philosophy behind Port Arthur and the slave castles was incarceration. Those sent to these places had little hope of escape, and the architecture, through its thick stone walls and narrow passages, is a reflection of this idea. Those who visit today, armed with the historical knowledge of those events, are confronted by the tactile reality of the site and must reflect on their own attitudes in comparison to those who built these places. The Nuremberg rally grounds were built as a monument to the glory of the Third Reich. They were specifically designed to inspire awe in those who experienced them, and by association, awe in the Nazi regime. Even today, these buildings are impressive structures, even though they are tainted by the actions of those who built them. Subsequent architecture is architecture built after an event, but specifically designed to be associated with that event. For example, the Ground Zero Monument in New York allows us to express an identity which honours the members of our society who suffer and die in circumstances beyond their control. The use of reflecting pools and inscriptions in this case focus the visitor on the past event and allow for a connection with those who have lost their lives. Incidental architecture, such as the bank in Snowtown, South Australia, shapes identity by allowing us to question the thin veneer of civility that our society portrays. If a mundane, nondescript building, analogous to a mundane, nondescript person, could hide the evidence of the worst serial murders in Australia, is our community identity really what it appears to be? In some cases, community identity is modified by what we choose to erase rather than keep. Sites, such as the mass shooting at the Broad Arrow Cafe at Port Arthur and Fred and Rosemary West's House of Horrors at 25 Cromwell Street, Gloucester, have been demolished rather than allow them to be the focus of crimes that the local community wishes to be completely dissociated from. Architecture provides a physical link between the visitor in the present and the events of the past, and can be used to shape our identity not only by preserving that with which we choose to be associated, but also by destroying that with which we do not.